So Jack, tell us about the time when Connor gave you a bollocking. Was it week two, was it? In the role?
It was first week, mate, to be honest.
First week. Oh.
Yeah, so essentially what happened was I'd just qualified as like been inducted. Ali had given me the role, he put me through the session, and it was my first ever kind of experience in like a professional environment. And this client that I was working with is quite a well-known client, did really, really well professionally in the business district in Liverpool. So Connor had handed me him as my kind of probably first or second client. And I think I've been on a student night out the night before. I won't lie to you. Been on a student night out. It was like level Wednesdays it was at the time. And
Oh, I've
I
heard
thought,
about.
do you know
I've
what?
never
I'm just
actually
gonna go.
been.
I'm just gonna go. I didn't have too many drinks. I had a few drinks, and I thought I'll be fine. The session's at 7:30. I'll be up at 6:30. And then, long story short, I slept in, and then I had this phone call from my boss Connor at the time, and he was like, "Mate, if you don't get down here in 5 minutes, you're gone." It's like that. And then I was just got there, and I just see him coaching the client minutes away from the gym. I ran all that way down to the gym and I just see his face when I get into the gym and he's absolutely fuming and livid. And that was like, I was like, and then I got it, mate. After that session, he was like, mate, you're gone. And I think Ali fought for me at the time because he was my manager. And he was like, this kid's got potential. You either stick with him. And I think Connor and Ash, it was dead set that I was gone at that point, wasn't it? I think they were
Yeah.
like dead set. And I just had to say, look, mate, I'm so sorry. This will never happen again. And that really was a turning point in my career. It was like I need to start taking myself seriously. And that really opened my eyes up to like, okay, you've got to sort your shit out now. You're 18 years old. If you want to make something of yourself, you've been handed an amazing opportunity at a really reputable gym with great personal training clients. And that was the start then, really. And that's when I kind of really focused on myself, leveled up, never missed a session after that, was focused, was disciplined, worked really, really hard, and progressed really well within the company within a short space of time. So lesson learned: you take your job seriously to start with, otherwise you can lose it before it's even began, really.
Absolutely. Levels Wednesdays. I've heard about this, but I've never
Yeah.
experienced it.
Oh, mate, you don't want to go there, honestly. Yeah.
Ah,
More of a
it,
student place, mate. I don't think you'd quite fit.
No, I haven't been out since I was 19.
JJ, how old are you, JJ?
27.
So it was still going. That was still there when I was there. So that must have been going for about 8 years, 9 years. That levels.
Yeah, probably.
Probably still going.
Yeah, I
Don't
reckon it
know.
probably is.
Have any of you been back to Liverpool City Centre recently?
Probably
In
not in
what
the
sense?
last 2 years, probably 2.5 years.
Like Bold Street, Seal Street, and all that now completely changed.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, just completely different to probably what we all remember being younger.
What's different to you? Because I go there occasionally. I haven't noticed like a massive difference, but I may have just seen a gradual change.
Just different, like because obviously like I don't live in Liverpool anymore, do I? So it's just different restaurants, different bars, places that used to be there that aren't there anymore. So for example, like is Peacock still there?
No
Don't think
idea.
that's still there in what you call it in St. Peter's Square. Like yeah, heebie-jeebies. Don't think that's still there anymore.
No.
So, Isaac, I'm naming all these bars, mate, but I don't think you went out that much.
I've
So I
never
thought
gone to a
this
fucking
conversation.
bar. I
This.
don't, I don't, I don't know what a bar is.
GBGB's was Thursdays. That was Thursday
Yeah,
nights, Gav. That was,
yeah. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? So it's like
Yeah.
it's just mad, isn't it? How like
Oh,
obviously things
actually, I have
change.
been there. Hebe's on a Thursday. I've been there. Other than that, I've got no idea about anything to do with bars. But the one place that will never leave Bold Street Matters. Do you remember this health shop Matters on Bold Street? Have you been in there?
No.
No, no, I don't think so.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It,
yeah.
Isaac, this says a lot about my and JJ sort of like like late teens, early
Yeah,
20s compared to
yeah.
yours there, mate.
when I was 18, I was fucking tracking micronutrients in Tupperware and bringing like
Yeah,
fucking
you were.
weighing out selenium and shit. Anyway, so the look for any listeners that don't have context is me, Ali, and JJ all started working in the same gym, which was Absolute Body Solutions, and we were saying just before we started recording, it was an unbelievable place to start your career because the standards were so high, and I always look at, if you walk into like a JD gym or a Pure gym or whatever it is, and you see the PTs and they're on their phone and the standards are just unbelievably low. It's like that is the norm of the industry. And when you start your career in somewhere like abs, for example, the standards are so high. It's it's almost like unfair advantage that you get to start with. And we're looking at sort of, I remember saying this to Jack Grinley probably about 2 years ago, 3 years ago when he was still coaching. All of the people that were working at abs were all doing extremely well in the fitness industry because they'd started with such an incredible footing. What would you say, Jack, is sort of like the main thing that you learned after that that allowed you to then go and, because essentially when lockdown occurred, that's when you went online. Remember we did a
Mm.
little photo shoot prep for like I finished it
Yeah, yeah, we did. Yeah, it
like
looked
in
great as well.
weeks,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then you went online. Like, what is it that you learned from apps that you then took into starting your own business?
I think communication is probably the biggest thing I learned in the 3 years of working with apps. Like communicating with such a vast array of different people, even sales to a degree without even knowing I was selling, and just how to communicate. How to put the client first, how to build genuine relationships. I think was the biggest thing, alongside, of course, the biomechanics that Ali taught me and everything like that, which was the key foundational pillars. How to onboard a client properly, how to conduct consultations, how to just set the professional standard from the off, was probably the biggest thing. And then I actually learned a lot from Connor, around how to run a business. That's something that I was massive on when I was with Connor. The biggest thing I got the biggest kick off was sitting in the room with Connor, with Ali, talking about the business and the business development.
Hmm.
And I tried to be a sponge as much as possible because that's where I thought my future was going to be. It was like being a manager within the company and progressing and to have my own gym was the original plan that when I set out with Connor. So that just being in those conversations around the business and how it's structured and how we can, essentially progress as trainers was cool. I like the progressional element of trainers that I use still within my company now of like tier one, tier two, tier three. Like we have that system in our business that helps trainers progress and like a leaderboard kind of system as well. So just all stuff around that really. But standards and communication is probably the highlight, honestly.
100%.
You say, sorry, go on, Isaac.
No, you go.
When you say you were going to aim to be a manager, what changed that has led you on this path in terms of running your own?
I don't know, mate, really. I feel like it was the company direction I thought it was heading in. And I saw Isaac leave, Ali leave, who was probably the person I most respected most in the company.
Mm.
And then a lot of the trainers in the other gym left all within about 6 to 12 months period. And the company just was what I thought it was. A lot of staff turnover and a lot of change. And I probably didn't believe I could run a business at the time. And it was probably the safe thing for me to do. Um, and then I kind of just thought, why not have my own thing? Because that was ultimately the dream, but I don't think I had the self-belief in it to probably have my own thing. And I think that's what changed, man, is like coming away because I was so busy. I think at my peak, I was probably doing 45 sessions a week, 50 sessions when I was working at Abs when those two weren't there. And I was a tier three trainer alongside Gareth, so I had really great clients. I didn't have time to think. So when something like lockdown happens or COVID, you have a lot of time away to reflect on what you actually want. And because my income went from a really stable income to zero, mate, or like, whatever the government gave us, the PAYE, whatever it was, the basic, it wasn't enough. And I was like, I can't really have my income in other people's hands. And I was like, if now's a time for me to give it a go, then I can do that because I backed myself to get a job for someone else in a similar facility again. I knew I could do that, but I had the opportunity in lockdown to build something of my own. And I was like, if there's a time to do it, the time is now. And that's when I just had to take the leap. Went back home initially to live with my parents for the stability element. So I didn't have to pay rent. And that's where I like, okay, if all else fails, I'm living with my mum and dad, it's not that bad. And that's kind of where I just went all in on it, really, mate.
When you made that decision,
Mm.
did you do you feel like that was like a negative period? I know there's like a positive, it's like I'm building my own business, but do you feel like emotionally it felt a bit of like a lowish point, a bit of an uncertain point in
Yeah, I
that
wouldn't say
period?
negative. It's uncertain and it's like that imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
So it's like everyone's going to experience that. When you're going to go to the next level, you're going to feel like an imposter. I didn't have any Instagram following. I think I had 400 followers. So that was a big thing. It was like, I need to get my clients to social media, but I haven't got any people following me. So I had to use all my friends and I didn't have enough transformations that I could use. So like when I was with Abs, I was very hesitant to market their clients as mine. So I had to kind of start again from scratch. And that's where I had to pull on probably my 5 to 6 closest friends to do a transformation for free. And that really gave me a leg up because how I kind of built my business was word of mouth and referrals. I only ever posted transformations and photos. That's all I would post. So I probably coached 10 people in my local town and I got them all really good results in a short period, like 8 to 12 weeks. And off that, my name grew really quickly. And at the time, there wasn't many people doing online coaching in 2020. I think I was the only person in my whole town. So you can imagine that when you get one transformation and you have 5 inquiries from one transformation, you compounds really quickly. And I think when you started back then, it was a lot easier than what it is now. How many coaches is that? 1,000 plus probably in the UK, I'd imagine. So at that time, there was probably only, I don't know, 5,000 in the UK compared to what there is now. So if you are like the only trainer in your town producing transformations, trainers didn't produce transformations. It wasn't really a thing. And if you did produce transformations, that was enough for you to stand out as a coach and get people inquiring. Well, now it's very different to that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And the context, the reason I asked that question is there's two things that I've noticed that you've said so far is both periods of uncertainty, like that period of your life seem like, and I think this is the difference between people who go on and utilize uncomfortable situations versus like they let it determine their life, is you use that as a period just like push on.
Yeah.
The period with your boss, get angry at you, and then Ali, same thing.
Yeah.
Is like using that as actual fuel rather than letting it sort of hold you back. Do you feel like
Yeah.
that's what you did?
Yeah, 100%, man. It's like there's only two ways you can respond to something that happens to you. One, you can let it, you can sit on it, you can dwell in it, and you can let it impact your action and not take action any further, or you can use it as a lesson, right? So any feedback is, whether it's positive or negative, is a lesson. You can grow from it and there's a challenge to overcome it. So it's how you view negative things that happen to you determine whether you move forward or you stay the same. And I think it's like whatever situation anyone faces in life, if something bad happens to you, it's like how can you use that as a lesson to now get better? And I think that's the key with anything.
Yeah.
I remember because I think we did the photo shoot. I prepped you for like the last 3 weeks and then
Yeah.
posted the photos. And did you launch it just after them? Was when you launched online.
Yeah,
I
the
remember,
official launch. Yeah, yeah,
remember I don't know if you remember, we were training in Prophecy and the gym got raided that day. And we
yeah.
pulled up outside Starbucks to just catch up.
Mm.
And I think you were about to do or finish a phone consultation with someone. I think you'd gone from like zero to like 40 clients in the space of like 2 or 3 months. It was ridiculous. I remember
Yeah.
I was just like, what the hell? What the hell are you doing? Because I remember like being
Post
like, what
transformations.
the hell are
That's
you
all I
doing?
was doing at the time.
So
Yeah.
one of the things that you mentioned before, or like we all mentioned before we started recording, is back then it was super easy to get clients. Now it's a lot more challenging.
Mm.
What has it been and took for you to get to the place where you just post a photo and get loads of clients and then to actually build a business to where it's at today? Because it seems like earlier on, I've heard you speak more about the fact that there was a lot of imposter syndrome, even though you were growing fast. And then now there seems to be a huge identity shift, a lot of internal work that's been done to get to a place where you don't feel like an imposter, even though your business is continuing to grow.
Mm. What do you mean? What work have I done in between that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything, man. Like in terms of work, there's so many different ways of work. I think the biggest way of building confidence is actually to get really good at the thing you actually do. So that is building a business, getting transformational results with clients. Like imagine if you do 5 years of working with clients and achieving results, you're naturally going to become more confident. So it's a case of stacking as much evidence as physically possible of I am really good at this, and it's like almost faking it till you're making it, like having that standard. But over time, if you can predict an outcome of a transformation and you're 100% confident that I can transform someone's life, it's great. When I hired my first coach, didn't have a clue about that. Just had to kind of get on with it, crack on with it. And every single time I've done it, I've got more and more confident of myself being able to get somebody to a level that they can do to operate in the business at the level that I need them to operate at. It's the same thing with anything. It's like whenever I do something, it's like it's the fear of the unknown, but you just have to do repeated action and get better at it and fail fast. But of course, there's always stuff that you can do. You can always get mentorship. And I've spent, made too much money. I wouldn't even like to say on mentorships now, or I've invested a lot into my mindset coaching or my personal growth. You're never going to grow as an individual in terms of the business or from a coaching standpoint, the level of identity and personal growth that you have for yourself. So there's so much work it's hard to put into one sentence, but it's doing the repeated action consistently for years and years and years, mastery of the craft to get confidence over time. Confidence is earned, it's not just happens overnight. Same thing with anything, and that identity shift is gradual. There's different roadblocks and challenges that you'll face at different points in your career, but it's learning that it's a gradual process, but you need to master the consistent basics for years and years and years and years. It's not some overnight thing that happens, it's gradual for sure. And there'll be periods of time where you just strike a look out of gold out of nowhere, like a one transformation signs up 25 clients in a week, which is crazy. That never happens anymore. But earlier days, it was something that happened quite a lot, and I was kind of rode the wave on it. So I always been a big believer you make your own luck, right? You put positive energy out to the world, it's receptive to you, and you'll grow from that. So yeah, just a lot really, man. It's kind of hard to pinpoint, but a
Yeah.
gradual process.
Like,
Yeah.
have you always not been afraid of failing? Because you just said then, like, obviously, when you're trying to grow, and we've all done this, you fail, don't you? And then you learn from your mistakes, then plan. Have you
Yeah.
always been that way inclined, or is that something that's crept up as you got a little bit older?
I think in 2022, I was petrified of failure.
Yeah.
2022, before I did the mindset work and the identity work initially, I was scared of going backwards and I was scared of me losing everything, me going broke. Was quite a repeated thing that's come up over the years. And that just stems from past childhood and stuff like that, and things that you learn and things that you're experienced to. But it's just conditioning your mind to not give in to that, and different things. So it's not completely scared of not failure, but I've never been scared to try.
Yeah.
If it's come up, it's come up, but I've still worked through it and not give up in that, if that makes sense, and not even bother to try. Because I think when the fear of failure comes up, the issue is not the fear of failure. The issue's not doing the work anyway to get past that. It doesn't matter if you're scared of failure, you just go do the work anyway. What I think happens to a lot of people is they're scared of failing and they don't put the required level of effort in to at least try, and get past it. And I think that's the issue that people like, whether it's posting content, working with a certain client, or going after what you want. If you don't commit to it fully, and you keep failing, then it's just negative feedback. I think you just have to do a stupid, ridiculous amount of work to get through that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's a really good answer. Really, really good answer.
You said then the first answer was sort of like you have to do shitloads of volume until your competence gets high enough where you are now confident and you can smash it.
Yeah.
But then you said in 2022 you're petrified and there was a moment where you did the mindset work, you chose to do the inner work.
Mhm.
What sort of, obviously I'm sure they both we both know they go hand in hand. You have to do the inner work whilst also doing the volume. But like what was sort of the breakthrough that you actually did internally to go, okay, I actually need to shift some internal beliefs and
Yeah.
actually start moving through this as opposed to just doing the volume.
Yeah, so I'd achieved a lot of success at a very young age, right? I was 22 and I was at a multi-six-figure business, and I was coaching, and I was way ahead of a lot of coaches older than me. So when I'm comparing myself to coaches older than me who are much heavily more muscled, they're living in Dubai, they've got these big businesses, but my business was a lot bigger. I didn't feel worthy of success, and that was the issue. It was that I'd done the work and I'd worked myself into the ground to get towards where I wanted to be, but I didn't feel worthy of that success. My identity hadn't caught up to where I was, even though I'd earned it. But I had to kind of realize my own value, my own uniqueness. And that just comes down to the identity work, the self-belief stuff, something that I was probably holding on to from my earlier years and my childhood, my teens, the football, the failures there. And it's just doing the work to kind of overcome that, but to realize the value that you actually have as an individual. And I think once you have that self-belief and you think you are valuable and you have the ability to change people's lives, it's like something, so it's a big weight you've been carrying that just drops and just allows you to kind of do things that you need to do, but at a much higher level, and operate from not fear, because the difficulty is when people operate from fear, they make poor decisions. But when somebody operates from growth and abundance, you make very good decisions because you're not scared to make mistakes or do the work. But if you stay trapped in fear, and you stay trapped in a position of, oh, what if it doesn't work out, or this, that, and the other. People don't take risks. They don't charge what they're worth. They don't take a marketing strategy, or they don't work with a client, or they don't handle situations the way you want it. They're reactive. If somebody's scarce, they're reactive. And I think if you have a scarce mindset, people were too involved in them as an individual. I need this, or I want to get here. Or if you were in a growth and abundance place of how can I change that client's life? Who do you think is going to stay longer? If you have the energy of how can I get that client the best result, or how can I put that client first, that client's going to stay with you 2, 3 years. But if you were into a scarce mindset of what can I do to make this client not leave, what do you think is going to happen? The client's going to leave at the first opportunity because the energy you're going at it with is completely flawed. And when
Yeah,
the energy you come at it in any situation happens, you don't move in the direction you think you want to. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, I agree completely.
The
We've
more
spoken
you
about this, haven't
go on.
we, Jake, in regards to like when we design and how to reduce our churn. So probably what was it, 2020, was it 2024? I basically, well, I say spent a year. Our main focus for the year was like how can we get churn to 5%, basically.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that was one of the biggest things we were like realized as we were doing it. It's like we're actually creating a culture where we obsess so much about people not leaving,
yeah,
which naturally is making things worse. And
yeah.
obviously the share number came down, so it did work tremendously well. But it's like you definitely, I agree completely. However, I'm going to caveat and challenge you on that because definitely want to be in a space of abundance. But from let's say 2019 to 2020 or 2022,
Mhm.
you were petrified and you still saw massive success. So is it actually one or the other, or do you think it's a combination of both? Because have I ever spoke to Jake or Ali? Have I spoke to you guys about the rat study where they had the cheese and the
Yeah,
cat?
were you running away from something, but you're also getting pulled towards something?
Yeah, yeah. Have you heard about this, JJ? Have you heard
Yes,
this?
I think I've heard a version of it. Yeah, but you can go on.
Well, essentially, long story short for listeners, they did the study where they measured how hard rats tried to run or how fast they tried to run, how much power they
Yeah,
generated, and in different scenarios. So the first scenario was they wafted the smell of cheese into the front to see how much they wanted to pull forward toward the cheese. Then they wafted the smell of a cat behind them to see how fast and hard they wanted to run away from the cat. And then they did both,
Mhm.
where they wafted the smell of the cat from behind and also the smell of the cheese in front. And in the situation where they had two different stimulus, something they're running from the cat and the cheese that
Yeah.
they're going towards, is when the rat pulled the hardest. And so the question is like, is
Can I answer it?
you haven't said the question yet, but you can answer it.
I know the question is. I think it is, but I don't think it's sustainable.
Exactly. Yeah, you can burn out very quickly. As like, can you operate from that energy for 10, 15 years consistently? Probably not. And in the coaching space, we all want our coaching careers to be for 10 or 15
Yeah,
years, right? Do you know what I mean? So,
Well, this is exactly what I was about to get to because I think in order for you to get to a place where you can even be abundant, I think at the
yeah,
start you have to
for
be
sure.
you when you're in that initial come up section, you have to sort of just be running from the cat.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
eventually it
I don't know if I
transitions
agree.
to
You
the
have to be
cheese.
running from it.
Don't have
I just think I think sometimes some people aren't, and then that's where people cave in. Whereas other
Mhm.
people like what JJ done, JJ's taking opportunity of that. But I don't think like you have to be running away from something to then
No,
try and
no,
be
you
successful.
don't have to be running away from something, but if just as an example, if you were to pick anyone in the industry that's doing really well, there probably was a period where they felt like they had something to prove.
But that I wouldn't say it's running away from something though, having something to prove.
Right, it is. It's feeling like you can't prove someone else wrong or yourself wrong.
Yeah, you've got to probably prove to yourself that you're not a piece of shit, you're not a failure. JJ's case, it was the football. In my case, it's football. For you, it might be I've got to prove something with bodybuilding. Now you're like, why the fuck am I doing bodybuilding?
Yeah.
But like, you've done it because initially maybe you had to try that.
Yeah, fair. It's a good way to word it. I think with the industry and the way where it used to be to where it is now, I think we all had egos that we want to be better than each other. Like us three,
Yeah.
like oh, there's like I'm excluding Jake within this because Jake didn't grow up within the same company as, but there was all probably an ego of like we all want to be better than each other. So,
Mhm.
but I don't think the ego of wanting to be a better coach is what it is at this moment in time. And I think that's probably what drove us all at the start a little bit more. It's like we all just wanted to fucking be better coaches than the other people in a healthy, competitive way. So you can argue that was a driver at the start.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. But no, it's interesting. So, but one thing you said before, JJ, I want to pick up on. You said I've spent too much money on mentors. Why did you say? Because I'm huge on language. Why would you say it's too much? Because I know you've probably
I mean, too much
invested
money to say
money.
on this podcast,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't talk about figures, mate.
And
No, I
is
don't
it
think I
possible to
spend too
spend
much.
too much? Is it
No,
possible to
it's
spend too much?
not. But I feel like
Yeah.
when you've done mentorship after mentorship after mentorship, you kind of get the gist of things, you know, and you're probably with some of the people you met with, you're probably more qualified to coach people than what they are. Do you know what I mean? Realistically, and I don't say that in a bad way, but it's a similar thing. You know what you need to do, but sometimes I think you're just paying somebody I was paying people to make me feel better, and like, okay, I just need someone to tell me what to do. I was like, do you, or can you just not think for yourself? And that's
Mm.
the question I've really had to sit on. And after I invested that 30K in the last mentor to not see results that I wanted to see, for them to be told charge more and spend more on ads, I was like, well, I knew I needed to do that. But like, do you know what I mean? It's like I have the whole system built and I know exactly what's required to go to the next level. But do you need someone year on year on year, or can you actually think a little bit more for yourself? Do you know what I mean? And
Is
that's the
there
level that I'm at now, is like I can think for myself and I can make better decisions. And with the money that I'm spending and the mentor, can I not just invest it into my staff and my own business potentially? Is that going to take me to the next level? Or
was
invest
it
it
like
into me? Do you know what I mean? Specifically.
was it like an accountability element to it?
100%. Yeah, yeah. In the earlier phases, for sure.
Yeah. So
But
like
I
what you
don't
just
feel
said
like I
there.
necessarily need that right now, you know. Currently, I'm driven enough as
Yeah.
it is to stay accountable. So again, I will hire another mentor at some point. I just feel like if you have been in 5 or 6 mentorships and nothing's changing, you know, is it a necessity, you know, realistically?
It's like
But
what JJ was talking about there. It's like that's what I've done with mechanics courses.
yeah,
Just because like it is so much, isn't it, to some degree, where it's the same shit, and then you just
mm,
got to start trusting your own thought process and belief
yeah,
system in regards to like
yeah,
you actually do know what you're talking about and you understand the basics. And probably with business, the same as like with mechanics, the same with anything. You can deep dive into fucking anything, can't you, to the nth degree,
yeah.
and you can always nerd out a little bit more. But yeah, it is it's interesting hearing you say that you've invested this money, but you probably just need to really just trust yourself and do your own
Self-trust.
decisions.
It's an element of self-trust that I probably didn't have. And because I've been doing a lot of mindset work myself personally over the last 12 months, I trust myself more in the decisions that I actually make. And I think for me now, I think definitely I had to invest in the mentors to get the knowledge and the skills, and I don't regret it in any way. But now, if you are at a level, because you've been in all those mentorships and you're working with, you know, some of my friends are earning hundreds of thousands a month. I'm a text message away of solving a problem. Do you know what I mean? So if you have the network and you have there's two things that solve problems, right? Money and people. That's all you need to solve problems. So if I have the network and the contacts and the people and I have a specific issue that I need solving, I'm one message away. And because I've been able to surround myself with so many people that are operating at a high level, it can probably solve it within a 2 minute voice note, or they'll send me over a document. Do you know what I mean? Um, but unless I would have invested to build my network and put myself in the right rooms, I probably wouldn't have that network today. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I
Pay
think
off the debt earlier.
what did you say, Jake?
You pay off the debt earlier.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
Yeah, I think there's a certain element in there where it's like you go and acquire, you pay a mentorship to acquire information, and then
yes,
there'll
yeah,
be like a period where you actually embed it into your own actual practice and get to sort of
yeah,
like, because there's one thing, let's say, for example, just started with Ashley, so there's loads of stuff going on with like new
yeah,
information, blah blah blah. Once I've absorbed the information, it's now completely useless. The only way it becomes useful long term is if I actually go and do it and
yeah,
feel the nuance of what happens when it is implemented and when you make
yeah,
adjustments and you make the small tweaks, which just happens over a period of time. I think once you've
yeah,
acquired information, you need to embed it. So if you're doing a mechanics course, you need to go and get people in person and get them to start feeling the lap differently, or try it and feel it and get the internal feedback, the kinesthetic feedback, the visual feedback of what actually happens when you implement this information, and then it's embedded in your nervous system. You've got it forever then.
yeah, 100%, definitely. But it's definitely, I think for you, it's an amazing investment. Like I said, I wouldn't recommend it if I didn't think it would be for you where you're at right now.
Hmm.
But I think 6 months with that, you'd learn everything you possibly can, and you can do it for yourself. And then
You know
just
what?
it's understanding the data. Do you know what I mean? That's the key.
You know what's funny is I always say this thing that I heard on a podcast one time: the transformation happens at the transaction.
Yeah,
And I've already learned all of the stuff that I needed to learn by just coming into the process. And what I needed to learn is that it's okay for me to let go of control.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's the whole thing that I needed to learn. It's like I've pretty much got all I need on the first week. And so it's like very often it's just being in a different environment with different perspectives and different beliefs that actually
Mm.
shift stuff. So we were speaking about this sort of the other day, weren't we, Ali, on our last episode about environment.
Hmm.
I asked you the question is like if you think about your best ever client, imagine they'd never come into contact with you, would they be where they are today? Probably not, because they were surrounded. They were with you in the process. They were in close contact with you, and they got access to your beliefs and your perspective shifts that you gave to them, which is why they got to where they got to. Not necessarily because they worked harder or did anything differently. You gave them information that they didn't have.
I reckon I got them there quicker. I still think they would have got there.
Yeah,
That's what how I'd weigh it. I think when you've got some, like for example, all of us on this call, we've all got a work ethic and stubbornness that will get somewhere. But by being around the right people, you'll get there at a quicker rate and make less mistakes.
hmm,
That's what outside like environment does a lot.
yeah,
Only if you listen to it though.
100%. Jake, you've been doing a lot of identity work recently. What is sort of like top of mind for you when we're speaking? Because I know you haven't said much.
Um, I think for me, the probably the biggest thing I've learned this year is that everything external, you already know this on paper and intellectually, but everything external is all a manifestation of everything that is internal. And
Mm,
most of your problems will either be tactical, most of the time, probably not tactical, and the other
Mm.
one, there'll be an identity issue and something that's just holding you back. And even if, for me personally, I intellectualize a lot of things more than actually feel it until this year. And that as a habit made me think I knew the problem, but I never actually solved the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
mm.
So I think the identity work is just feels like a revelation for me.
Yeah, it's good now. Good. It's
So,
definitely.
JJ, you said you started doing meditation and breath work. Ali started, we got you to meditate about how long you been meditating for now? Like a month?
No,
I hate you.
I've been meditating for fucking about 3 years, but how long have we been consistent for about a month?
Yeah, so you got the waking up app. You've been consistent for a month. Rest and hours come down, HRVs
Yeah.
come up. It's fucking great. JJ, I didn't know you'd been meditating, but you said it recently. You've been meditating for 4 years. What do you guys feel the role of meditation is? Because I've been meditating since like 16, and no one really thinks about meditation. It's never been mainstream thing until more recently. So it's like, what is it that, or what role do you guys see meditation plays in high performance? Because a lot of people think about meditation as like, oh, you just go and sit on a, you know, in a field with your arms and legs crossed, and then you're just gonna sit there and just like, be completely passive and achieve nothing. But I actually think it's fundamentally vital for high performance.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
how do you guys see it play into high performance?
I think I'm naturally quite a stressed person, quite anxious. So if I wake up, I'm really anxious. Like first thing, I'm quite anxious, and that's why I don't go on my phone first thing because if I see something bad, that's how you start your day. I think it sets you up for the rest of it, and that's why I always go out, walk, sunlight first thing, then I meditate after that, and then I have a coffee, just because I want to get my mental state in the best place possible to serve myself first before I can serve others before I go and attack them any problems. Because as soon as I start my day, it's nothing but problems. So for the first 30 minutes to an hour of my day, if I can get myself right first, put myself in the best mental headspace before I go into the day, and you might think, oh, that's a bit of a waste of time. But it's not because the decisions you make day to day literally dictates your outcomes. So if you go into it stressed, anxious, and you're feeling like under pressure and you're not feeling yourself, that's how you're going to experience every day. And I think if you can win your morning, you win your day. And I think meditation is just the key to regulating your state, bringing, getting yourself into a parasympathetic state so you can, rest, relax. Otherwise, I'm in fight or flight all day if I didn't do that. And that's why it's key for me. I had like social anxiety as a kid, and I wish I would have found meditation earlier because I think it would have solved a lot of things. Even going out night out, I used to get hammered at pre-drinks just so I could, fit in and feel good. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
now, I don't need alcohol and I'm not out, and it'd be fine. Do you know what I mean? But I think it's when you're younger, if you are anxious, which a lot of young lads are now, it's like they'll use alcohol, nicotine, vaping, marijuana as a form of
Mm.
uh, changing their reality, and I think if you can control your mental state and emotion regulate better, then I think it'd solve a lot of problems.
100%. I think as soon as you start medicating with nicotine, drink, whatever
Mm,
it is, or even just bedding yourself in work, that's another form of just
yeah,
like making yourself feel good and just
yeah.
like avoiding some of the stuff that you might need to address internally. It's like it just creates a loop of more and more and more anxiety and stress. And as soon as you
Mm,
just go, actually, I'm just gonna sit with myself and start processing some of this stuff. I'm gonna start meditating, maybe even some breath work. Is like immediately you just notice that. I don't know when you guys started, it was like maybe like 10 days, 30 days, whatever, where you just all of a sudden just like, oh my God, I can think so much clearer.
mm,
It's like you just start an upward spiral straight away as soon as you start actually processing things properly. But what I'm interested in is when you say that it allows you to perform better, that all sounds great, but like physiologically, I think it helps people who are more logical minded to understand is like your brain actually can't make high quality decisions when you're in a stressed state. And so like
mm,
especially if you're a business owner, if you can bring your resting heart rate down by 5 BPM or bring your HRV up, you can actually be in a restful state. Or not even if you're a business owner, if you just have a normal job, or you just want to be less irritable around your partner and just be a better human, full stop in general. If you are more relaxed, you are generally going to have a much better experience of life.
mm,
It's about though it's about being aware of the actions that you're doing and not letting your subconscious tell you what you should do. That's what don't need to meditate. So like when you come to like the subconscious, like we tell ourselves whatever stories we need to tell ourselves for the situation, but we'll never look at it from a conscious logical lens. Does that make sense what I'm saying now? Like in regard to like right now, four of us are talking, like we're talking about X, Y, and Z. But if we're highly stressed to think about the what ifs and the body's only here to protect us and survive, isn't it? At the end of the day, us having a six pack or us having £1 million in the bank, it doesn't mean jack shit for what that human body is actually designed to do. So when you've got things like, and by the way, like when I talk about anxiety and whatnot, people do have clinical diagnosis of anxiety. But when you've got anxiety, overwhelm, things like that, all you're doing is just trying to protect yourself for what may happen within the future. But when you do meditation, you bring yourself down to earth and you can think things more from a conscious side of or conscious lens, or view things from a conscious lens, I should say, in a perspective. You're then cutting that noise off. So like that's what it's done for me. It's cut the noise off so I can really appreciate the things that are in front of me as opposed to bypass the things that are like obviously I told you what happened to me on Monday and whatnot. It's like the appreciation for the vets, friends, family is through the roof right now. Couldn't give a shit about business.
mm.
So like with what happened on Monday, it's like that was irrelevant. Whereas I think if you would put me in that situation 3 years ago, I would have been panicking because I had to get back to clients still,
Mhm.
even with that stuff
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think the ability then to be able to just realize what it is for what it is in front of you is important.
I think it allows you to like actually be in the driver's seat of your own life
Yeah.
as opposed to someone else's driving the car. All of these subconscious belief patterns that have been indoctrinated into your brain for the last 30 years or whatever are
Mhm.
now driving your life and your decision making and your behaviors as opposed to you actually get the fuck out of the driver's seat and you're going to sit in the driver's seat instead. And that's probably the best way to describe it for someone who's never experienced it.
Yeah.
JJ, do you meditate? Do you use anything specific or do you just sit there? Like, how do you get
Yeah, I
yourself?
use Calm. I use Calm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really like Calm. Yeah, yeah, I use Calm. I subscribe to that. Sometimes I won't. Sometimes I can sit, but it depends how I'm feeling. I do use it though.
Yeah, cool.
Um, but I just try and not think. Like I just sit there and see. I always like to think it's like having a massage for your brain. So if you can sit there and not think, it's like I think by the end of it, your brain feels really good because it's clear and you're not having that when you get
Mhm.
pulled here, there, and you're thinking about that. I've got to do that. If you can control your brain, I think it's such a nice feeling at the end of it. Um,
You
but
too?
I think the biggest thing with meditation is like if you do start thinking, not to judge yourself for thinking and think, oh, I'm doing shit. Do you know what I mean? It's like how can you be non-reactive to thinking about a thing? It's like the more you can less react to a thing that comes up, it's like the better you feel.
I think
This
you've
this
nailed it there. So like,
Yeah.
because like I think people think they should not think,
Yeah.
but you're always going to think. It's about just being able to let them pass.
Yeah.
I think that's where
But
loads
not
of people
cast
fail.
judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to step into the space of being an observer instead, don't you? It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
like Isaac Hughes at the car drive. Who's the driver analogy? It's like or actually if you can just like third person yourself and just watch yourself drive, then it's even better.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
for sure, for sure. It's like there's obviously there's different levels of meditation without sounding like a cunt. It's like the the there's like a moment with the first. So for anyone that's listening who's never meditated before, you will for sure go in and be like, this doesn't feel nice at all. Because you're gonna experience your mind going fucking mental for like the first time ever. And then people, how many times, so JJ, when you started meditation, and Ali, I'm sure, because you've just properly started and getting breakthroughs now, are you telling people to start meditating?
Yeah,
Are you,
so I've told people to use the State app for about 4 years, but
yeah,
like in regards to like meditating work, I've harped on about it a lot, but probably never actually fully believed in it.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
But
If I'm
like
honest.
now you believe in it, you're going to tell people more conviction,
Oh,
JJ. I'm sure
100%, yeah, yeah,
you try to
100%, yeah.
get maybe clients to meditate, whatever it is. And the first thing everyone always says is, ah, meditating's not for me. It doesn't work for me. I can't get my
I
mind to
don't
be
really
quiet.
push it that
And
much,
I'm like,
I don't know why. I don't really
well,
push it that much. I
yeah,
still think it's a bit of a weird thing to say, probably, and I shouldn't really think that,
yeah,
but I
well, I
don't
stopped.
really push it as much as I should.
I,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I, I live and breathe private now, mate.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
yeah,
just like I've been doing loads into the autonomic nervous system over the last, say, 6 months, and I
Mm.
think it's the key to life, managing that. Physique
Joe
development.
Jeffrey is massive on it, isn't he? Joe
So
Jeffrey is
we've got
huge
Joe
on it.
Jeffrey
Yeah,
next week on a call, and like
yeah.
I think like from a business perspective, like you made very good points before in regards to how it's helped you within that element. I think from a physique development perspective, like I think we all do too much, and we all try and outwork what we're physically capable of actually recovering from. And if you
Mm.
want to do more, you better be able to recover more. I think the way we partition and utilize nutrients is all down to the autonomic nervous system because the gut links to the brain. I think illnesses can subside as well by reducing inflammation by managing the autonomic nervous system. So, but I think the hard thing about it is it's not sexy, is it? Like you
Mm.
don't pop a pill, you have to sit there in your room by yourself with an incense stick and listen to someone go come by art. It's like it's not something that people want to do. It's not like taking a pill and getting a pump and doing a session. It's quite boring, and I think that's where people struggle with it a lot. Is it's not exciting to do.
and people don't believe in it as well because they can't
Mm.
see it.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
they don't even want to do it because they're like, well, what the fuck are you even talking about? And do you know, anecdotally, right? Let me ask you guys. I've noticed that if it's ever difficult to put muscle on someone, they're always very neurotic.
hmm
I've never found it difficult to put muscle on someone who's very calm, relaxed, and stable.
Mm.
And I don't necessarily mean neurotic as in they are neurotic. Let me rephrase
No,
that.
I get what you mean.
Their nervous system is in fight or flight most of the time.
So,
Yeah.
I'm going to agree with you, but I think you can put a muscle on, but just at a later age because JJ's put muscle on. I put muscle on. Me and him have both been very sympathetically dominant for a long part of our life. But you could
Mm.
argue JJ and I could have made a lot more progress in the time frame that we have done if we were in a more parasympathetic state.
Yeah. I would say so. Yeah.
Because it's the
Definitely.
same thing like when people
So I
say,
was very fight and flight, even through
yeah,
building my business up until
yeah,
about 22. And then once I started to regulate, probably like 4 years, 4 or 5 years ago, yeah, when I started meditation, that's when I really have calmed down. And I
yeah,
made a lot, you can see my progress from 23 onwards.
more.
I made loads more progress than what, even through abs, I was so stressed, mate. Like even uni, my life was chaotic. I used to go from like abs 6 till 9, eat eggs from the shop for like £3 on the way there, go to my lecture, train, have the worst session, 45 minutes, just literally get by, kill myself in the session, scram my post-workout Cocoa Pops really, really, really fast, then be straight back into uni, then back. And then my life would literally run like that. And then
Mhm.
I'd throw alcohol and all sorts of stuff on the weekends, it was crazy. And I'd literally go back to it. And because I lived like that for 3 years, I felt like I didn't make progress. Made progress academically, killed it. Yeah, unbelievable. And in my career, amazing. But physiologically, my body was just in fight or flight the whole 3 years, probably, honestly. When I was working at abs in university, definitely.
What is it that got you to a point where you were like, I need to go and speak to Kieran?
I
TMP.
think it was just, yeah, I was just walking around thinking, oh, a client's going to leave, this, that, the other. And it was always in my head of like something really bad's going to happen to me. I was like,
Mhm.
what if this happens? And it was just constant negative self-talk all the time. Even though I was making progress relatively well, I was always self-doubt, massive fear all the time. Clients are going to drop off. What if this works? This doesn't happen. Do you know what I mean? It's just all that all the time. And the noise is becoming more and more and more.
Mhm.
And I was like, And then Simon, one of my friends, was working with Kieran, and he was like, "This has changed my life. It's amazing." And he's the biggest coach at the time. He was double the business that I was. I was like, "What changed?" Like, he was like, "I just did the mindset work," and he told me what he was charging. I was like, "You can't charge that as a coach." So why not? So I don't believe I'm worth that. I was like, "Why don't?" Do you know what I mean? It's like, and seeing somebody go through that process of like, okay, maybe this is what I need, that self belief element.
Mm.
Uh, mm.
And then through that, then that's where you started being able to regulate more, and then your physique blew up as well.
Yeah, yeah. As a byproduct of that. Yeah,
I like it.
definitely.
Find purely out of my curiosity here, did you find that transition into being in fight or flight so often to being more regulated more often? Did you find that uncomfortable in any way?
Yeah, probably, mate. Honestly, I'd have periods of time where I've had weeks where I don't meditate and I go back to my old default system quite quickly.
Yeah.
Um, and it's the same now. Like I have like mindset coaching every 2 weeks therapy. If I left it 4 weeks, I would default to my fear state a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I think it's never like a switch, it's like a continuum, right? It's always like up and down. And I think the less if you stop meditating, you stop doing the things that you need to do to regulate, or whether it's the breath work or whether some people do journaling or stuff like that. If you repeatedly don't look after yourself, like you'll go back to like your default state quite quickly. And like what me and Ali said, the default state is stress, is anxiety. And if I don't look after myself, I'll just go back to that state. So it's like you got to look after yourself. I think some people that they are regular, like they regulate so well just naturally, they don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
You get some people that are just so chilled and so calm, but
Mm.
I think high achievers or anyone that wants to do really well, like they are the insecure overachievers that they have to do more, more, more to, be more of value. And
Yeah.
I think the more you can just be, the better you will feel day to day, rather than you have to do. It's like the more you can just be to be happy, rather than I have to do to be of worth,
Yeah.
the happier you'll be as well, for sure.
We're human beings, not human doings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know what's
yeah,
funny though as well? The more you be, probably the more you'll do as well.
Yeah,
yeah, for
exactly.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah, I like that. Right.
yeah.
Well, the one question I wanted to ask you, and then we'll wrap up unless anyone else wants to ask any questions. What's your predictions of where the industry is going to be in the next 3 to 5 years? Very difficult question because AI, no one knows, but you got any ideas?
AI won't take over the industry.
No, of course not. But where do we feel like it's going to be?
I think what will happen is, as a prediction, all the good coaches that have got really good relationships will keep growing more and more, hopefully faster. I think there'll be a really transitional period over the next 12 to 24 months where it's still a bit messy, messy middle. Everything is going to be similar to what it is right now. It's probably going to get worse before it gets better. But then I think there's going to be two ways. You either go super low ticket or like app generated AI. There'll be loads of that, more and more and more. Or if you want to work with good quality trainers, there'll be less of us. We can charge more. We can charge more premium. I think mindset and identity will come into it a hell of a lot more than what it is right now. I hope anyway. That's where I want to take my coaching anyway. And I think the coaches that can build the best communities, the relationships, and the in-person stuff, and have create experiences rather than just here's a training plan, nutrition plan. If you can create an experience for your client, I think you'll grow really quickly. I think that's because our business is growing relatively quite quickly right now, through a torrent market. So if we can keep adopting the standards and build the relationships with our clients at a good level, I hope as well that there will be more of a divide. Fingers crossed.
Yes. Ali, what were you going to say?
I think what JJ just said, I think it's summed up quite perfectly, if I'm being honest. I do think mindset's going to come to a lot more. I think we're all a lot more aware of the importance of being present with how quick and how people managing people's expectations. Like everyone thinks that they can get everything like Amazon Prime. Like
Mm.
transformations still take more than 12 weeks. Like unfortunately, the human body's still the human body. I think one-to-one will come back in for a little bit. I think people miss human connection.
I
I
agree
think
with you,
that's
Tom.
definitely going to be something that will do a U-turn for a little bit. I hope what JJ said is true in regards to the good coaches will stay around and they'll rise to the top, and then the people who are not in the industry for the right reasons will either just fuck off and stay fucked off, or they'll just get caught found out at the end of the day. I think what happened in lockdown was people thought they could just become an online coach and they done it on the side hustle the job and then realized you can make a fair bit of money by marketing techniques and so on and so forth, but you've never actually fell in love with the process of being a coach, and I'm hoping that gets dwindled out.
Yes. Yes.
Would-
Yes. Absolutely. So JJ making a bet on mindset and identity transformation. We've sort of made a bet on events, haven't we? Which we need to organise our next event, by the way, Ali.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know
Yes,
that.
we keep forgetting about it. But yeah, I think that's a great conversation. I hope everyone who is listening is taking a lot from it. JJ, if you got any sort of like, if there's anyone sort of in a situation where they may be feeling like you did a couple of years ago, it's like, okay, I've now got lots of ambition, I'm making great progress in my life, whether it's physique, in their career, in their business, whatever it is, and you could give the one piece of advice to shift that identity the most, what would you say to help them get to the next level?
Um, I would ask yourself some really hard questions of why do the feelings coming up right now keep coming up and what's underneath that?
Hmm.
So if you have a consistent thing that keeps coming up, whether that's fear, whether that is, what is it that's actually stemming from that? And it's actually better to do this with a person, a therapist, or something like that to actually uncover it. And what underneath what's the need that you're trying to validate? So is it a need to be enough? Is it a need to be loved? Is it a need? Because as human beings, we only have a few needs, and that need isn't to be a millionaire. The need is safety. The need is to be part of a community. The need to be in love. These are all human needs. And everything we do in life, we're conditioned to these needs. So if we go chasing a physique, it's probably to try and validate a need that we're trying to, be something or achieve. So once somebody actually understands the everything we do most of the time is to meet these needs. What is the need that you're trying to meet? And if you have a constantly negative feeling in your head of something that is really impacting how you feel every day, unpack what is that? Why is that keep coming up? And if you can do the work around that and you understand it, and you can give yourself comfort of, I am enough or this. And you can go back to the younger version of you who wasn't enough, as this is a random example. And you can put his arm around him and you say, do you know what? You're enough just the way you are. You don't need to prove to him to be. And you can do that on a repeated basis. That's what it will take to achieve a breakthrough. Does that make sense?
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
coming from my situation, just to give you an example. It could be anything. There's things, negative things, the worst possible things can happen to someone, and it can be a hell of a lot deeper than that, as you can imagine, and they're probably still holding on to that. But even trauma it happens to everyone in big or small amounts, and it's normally these things that are holding people back from progressing towards where they want to be.
100%. Look, I think everyone's gonna have their own version of that. Like our
Mhm.
trauma is probably similar to football. You know,
Yeah. It's
like that.
not really excessive trauma, right? But like it doesn't matter. A lot of these things, the smallest thing that happens to you as a child, you get knocked over in the playground or whatever, you think that's a massive trauma because as a 4-year-old, that is a big
Yeah,
trauma.
Yeah,
Or you
yeah,
get
yeah.
left in the if you get left in the supermarket at 5 and your mum's lost you for 5 minutes, and you think, why is my mum doesn't care about me or whatever? That's a
Yeah,
big thing, right? Do you know what I mean? I'm just using random examples here.
yeah, for
So
sure.
they can be big or small, 100%, definitely.
Well, I know that there's going to be some people who maybe listen to that and go, "Oh, what the hell's he talking about? Putting your arm around your younger self." I promise you, right? Because if you
Yeah.
haven't had a therapist or you haven't gone through that in therapy, that what my therapist got me to do that as a visualization, I promise you, is one of the most powerful things you could ever do of whatever the thing is. So, you know, to add on to that, because I want to tie it back to what you mentioned about mentors. The reason why you've been able to make so much progress is because you have paid too much money on mentors and therapists and people to give you information that that
Yeah.
has allowed you to move forwards. So adding
Yeah.
on to that, also
have,
seek input from other people.
have any of you two delved into, or three should say, sorry, NLP?
Yeah, I've done loads of,
Like,
I've had loads of NLP over the
Yeah,
years. Yeah.
I prefer NLP over therapy.
Yeah. That's what I do. I do NLP.
Yeah. Um, I love my therapist. She's boss, but I think
Yeah.
therapy is more progressive.
Therapy's a bit more of a chat, in it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think sometimes you need to do therapy to figure out things that you might not be able to understand.
Mm.
But I don't. I don't think necessarily always going back in time is what you should be doing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
agreed.
I think NLP is a lot more progressive in the way in which you take steps forward as
Hmm.
opposed to go back to try and change something that can't be changed. But I think it's always good to go back and understand.
Hmm. Do you think, I don't, obviously I'm not in the UK now, so I don't really see it, but do
Yeah,
you think people are becoming more and more receptive to things like this? Like a few years ago, people would like it wouldn't even enter the conversation, men specifically.
yeah.
Do you feel now it's becoming a bigger thing?
I think mental health awareness around men is definitely bigger. Definitely bigger. I think the fact of like I think men can definitely communicate a lot more than what it's always been generations ago. I still think it's got a long way to go. I think it's
Hmm.
got a long way to go. I think therapy's definitely it's not as how can I put it without sounding like you can't be fucking PC. It's not as wishy-washy as what it used to be, and like people don't judge you for going to a therapist. Like I've seen my therapist for 3 years. I
Yeah,
don't think anyone judges me for doing that. Whereas maybe 5 years ago, maybe like for example, like if you spoke to someone like Connor, like Connor probably wouldn't have went to a therapist when he was getting brought up, and it wouldn't be something me and Connor would have spoke about in the early 2018s, 19s to 20s. It wouldn't even be a conversation because you thought, I don't need to go to therapy. There's nothing wrong with me. Whereas I think some people always wait for something to be wrong with them to go to therapy, which I don't think is
yeah,
necessarily the most intelligent way to do things. I think you should go to a
yeah,
therapist, regardless if things are good or wrong, just to understand yourself a little bit more.
yeah. 100%. Definitely.
Agreed, agreed. Can we wrap it there?
Yeah, wrap
Yeah.
up there.
Guys, thank you so much for listening. And JJ, where can they find you?
Instagram is probably the best thing. JJ_Fortis. Probably the easiest way. YouTube. I think it's Jack Jacques. I think they're the only two major platforms I'm using at the moment.
Lovely. Well, guys, thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe and all that stuff. And we'll see you in the next one.